Welcome to another edition of Who's Better Baseball, the podcast where we talk about who. And honestly, that's a perfect transition into our next part of the show today, which is looking at these division races down the stretch. And that's one of the most exciting ones, see what happens in the AL East. But we're going to go from least exciting to most exciting as we break this down. And shout out to Kevin Henry, who wrote an awesome article about this at justbaseball.com, which MLB division race will be the best to follow in 2024. As we're going through this, let's start with those teams those divisions that are pretty much sewn up. And the first one to just sort of briefly mention here is the NL Central. Brewers got this one in the bag, don't they? At this point, 10 games up with 5+ weeks left in the season.
They don't even need Christian Yelich. It's amazing what they've been able to do and what Pat Murphy has been able to do as manager of this club. After Craig Counsell says, no, there is a place that is as good as home, and it's Chicago. Well, I don't know that he regrets that necessarily, especially when he looks at his bank account. But for the Brewers to be able to do this is incredible. And they've used 16 different starting pitchers. Like, that's second most in all of baseball this year. So. Actually, no, 17. It's crazy. So, yeah, I've got no confidence in St. Louis or the Cubs, who are 10.5 back. Reds are 11 back. Pirates, 13.5 back. It's nice that they're in the conversation for a wild card, but no, this division is all about the Brewers.
It is. And actually, I'm hearing in, Patrick, over the weekend, they're going to push that to 20 different starting pitchers as they decided to just call 3 more guys up from AAA and just cycle them because who cares? They're going to win no matter what. Yeah, the Brewers are running away with that division. And we actually had another article that came up this week talking about the fact that they might clinch first this year because they have the widest division lead right now. The only question now for the Brewers is, one, can you get that bye over the Dodgers and the Phillies? Can you be one of those two teams so you don't have to play in a wild card round, which I think is very important for a team that has a lack of starting pitching. And then once you're there, okay, you got to the dance with ease. Are you going to be able to make some noise without that starting pitching? It's kind of the question we've been asking about them all season long, and it won't be answered until October. So let's move away from the NL Central. Let's talk about another race that is seemingly all sewn up, and that would be the NL East. The Phillies got a 7-game lead on the Braves, 8.5-game lead on the Mets. It would take a pretty big collapse for the Phillies to not win this division at this point. I think the bigger thing to watch for them is, will they get the bye? But the division, I feel like, is pretty firmly in their grasp.
Yeah, I think so. I think the Phillies have had, a couple hiccups in the last few weeks in the second half, but you're right. It's really more about, can Atlanta and New York just get super hot? And I think that remains to be seen. I don't think that's going to happen. And if you're going to bet on any team to be super hot of that trio, it'll be the Phillies and further extend that lead. So yeah, the NL East is all but wrapped up.
I think the only way this would have been a conversation is if Austin Riley had been healthy for this stretch run. But losing Riley, to me, it just put the Braves in a very singular focus mode. Can you be one of these wildcard teams? That's a race we'll continue to monitor closely throughout the final stretch of the season here. What's the division that is most in hand? Has it all of a sudden become the AL West?
Say it.
Another
Yes.
one of your early takes, Patrick. Take your victory lap because you said that you had the Houston Astros. You were not worried early in the season. I was. I called them dead way too soon. And here they are, 5 games up on the Mariners with 5+ weeks left to go.
Never doubt. They are banging on all cylinders. Pun actually not intended, because we don't think that they're cheating right now. So, yeah, I the victory lap will be a little bit muted because the news earlier today, coming out I think a couple hours ago, is it official? Scott Servais out as manager of the Mariners. So, the M's doing a great job on the pitching front. Their starters are, just locking things down. Best rotation in all of baseball, most consistent rotation in all of baseball. And despite the fact that Jerry Dipoto brought in both Justin Turner and Randy Rosarena, the offense is still just trying to figure out things, and it's just not going well. So yeah, the Astros have this division locked up. I'm just shocked that they've wrapped it up this quickly, right? Think about just how far they were. And I figured it would take the final week of the season for them to get at least one of the wild cards, and it would just be somewhat of a grind. And yeah, they've been grinding, but now they've got it. They're not going to stop anytime soon. But yeah, I think the AOS has got to be third on the depth chart of divisions that are wrapped up.
It's crazy because, I mean, I think it was as recently as our last show a couple weeks ago, where I still was buying into the Mariners because I just watched them beat up my Mets in a series. And when you see the Mariners right, it's mind-boggling to then look at what they've done this year. Because when you watch them roll out 3 starters in a series and just as the opposing team, you're watching your favorite team go up against them, and it's 7 innings of just no chance. I mean, absolutely no chance. That's how good those guys are. You would think that this team would just roll, and it hasn't been there. So I think the decision to fire Scott Service after all these years, as crazy as it is, I think a change was going to be made in the offseason if they ended up blowing this lead and falling out of the playoffs entirely. So why not try to get that new manager magic where we've seen it, even though we say a manager doesn't have the most value in the game, which I think is probably not true. Sometimes getting that new face for whatever it does to a team, it just makes them go. So I guess that's the one kind of wild card in this race is, can the Mariners get hot? There's still a team that can, but as long as the Astros hold serve and do what they're supposed to, it seems like they're going to be able to hold them off anyway.
Trade deadline's gone, and now you can only pick up players off the scrap heap, and that's completely out of your control. That's just about who gets available and gets dumped by another team. So the only other major transaction you can make is the one you just hit on, a new manager where you can get some of that mojo, get some of that magic, and maybe it changes things a little bit. Maybe it changes the dynamics in the clubhouse. Maybe it changes just some of the players' attitude in general, going, man, I really like that last guy, and we're one of the reasons why he's gone. And so now we got to get this thing done here. We really got to believe it. There is a lot at stake. We can't be too comfortable. This can't be cushy. Let's go out and do this thing. So now they're fighting for their life in one of the AL wildcard spots. So I think that definitely is still one to watch. I don't think they're going to catch the Astros, but as far as getting one of the wildcard spots, I think this could be one of the best moves any team could possibly make on August 22nd.
It's a move out of desperation, but you know what? Sometimes you need to do that. Sometimes you got to push the chips forward and see what can end up happening for you. It's a move they had to make, but it's funny you mentioned that there's not a lot of transactions that can be made because the Astros just bolstered their bullpen off of waivers. They pick up Hector Neris, who was fantastic for them last year, gets paid a lot of money by the Cubs because of the season he had with the Astros. The Cubs don't want to pay the money. I think there was also like a vesting option in that contract, if I'm not mistaken. I can pull it up as I pass it to you here, but Hector Neris comes into that bullpen. He hasn't had the best season, but now you go from closer, everything's on you in Chicago, to 4th guy in that bullpen in Houston, a place you're comfortable. It feels like they actually got one of those waiver trades of the past where they got a lot better here in August with this transaction.
Yeah, anytime you can add a role player that has that kind of postseason experience and that kind of familiarity with your organization, that can certainly do wonders, and you can have those specific games where you go, shoot, we wouldn't have won that if we didn't have Neris holding down the fort, getting out of a jam with runners on and whatever that might be. Same thing in the postseason when you got a much quicker hook for a starter if they don't have that. So yeah, I think that's going to end up working out really well for the Astros, for Neris. And that's a win-win. That's just one of those deals that falls into your lap. It's too hard to say no. So I think that's definitely going to be a good move that benefits everybody in this situation.
And I want to actually clean something up here. He was not claimed off of waivers. He passed waivers. Nobody was going to want that contract. Essentially, if he got to 60 appearances on the season, his $9 million player option would have converted for next year. So because of that sort of poison pill, he gets through waivers, and the Astros then are able to just sign him. So they're not attached to him for next year. So that's an even better move from Houston. They're not paying him some crazy amounts, probably just the minimum, and they get to plug him in. That right there, not that Hector Neris is what won the Astros the division in 2024, but to me, it's more of a testament to, they're fully back. They're going to be a huge threat. And when you get to October, I mean, is there a team? It's crazy I'm saying this. Is there a team that is more scary, built for October, despite all the bad things I said about the Astros, than this team that's battle tested going into any series, whether it's the Yankees, the Orioles, the Guardians? It's still the Astros.
Ryan, are we going to have to make like a clip with like Sarah McLachlan's "I Will Remember You" of just all the episodes where I'm talking glowingly and giving praise about the Astros, and then they win the World Series? Are we like secretly an Astros podcast? Do the Astros, are they aware of us? Is Yuki Matsui saying, "Hey guys, this show over here is really talking about how you guys aren't totally out of it yet"? If they come through, Yuki, what's up? If they end up pulling through and doing this, yeah, I'm gonna feel really good. I mean, I already do, but man, this is just icing on the cake. And now that you're coming around on it, man, it's a good day.
You've become an Astros fan, and I certainly can't say I am, but when I look at now a good bullpen getting better, and if they can get Justin Verlander back down the stretch pitching well, they can get a little bit healthier. Kyle Tucker being the big shoe we're waiting to drop here. Yeah, the Astros are going to be one of those teams that you are not going to want to see in the playoff series because every single year then the ALCS, and a lot of years they win it. So it's crazy that we've gotten to this point that we're not even in September yet, and we look at the AL West as a division that's wrapped up. But I think it is. I really think it is.